Hey, what's up, guys? This is the Wine Merchant, and I'm going to do a special video when I do my commentary on another person's video. This person is Konstantin Baum, who's a master of wine. And he did a video called The Clash of the Wine Masters, kind of play on, Clash of the Titans, where he blind tastes some wines from Jancis Robinson, wines that were ranked 17, 18, 19, and 20 points. He's going to give you his thoughts, but I'm going to give you my thoughts. And my thoughts are going to be on his conversation about the scoring scale. All right, guys, let's go get started.
It is difficult to list all of Jancis Robinson's achievements because there are so many of them. The most important ones are probably that she founded her own website and platform, jancisrobinson.com, in 2000 and sold it 2 years ago. She has written or co-authored many of the most widely read books on wine, like the Oxford Companion to Wine, the World Atlas of Wine, and Wine Grapes. I read her books quite frequently and I find them very insightful, especially the Oxford Companion, which is also available through her website.
All right, guys. So here Konstantin is paying tribute to Jancis's knowledge. And here are the books that he mentions. All right, here we go. Wine Grapes, the most extensive group about all the wines that are made in the world. As you can see, a thick book full of knowledge. So I have this book as well. The World Atlas of Wine. And I think there's like 8 editions right now. This is just one of them. This goes region by region, kind of all the regions that specialize in different grapes. A very extensive book. So great book, another great book by Jancis Robinson. And the last book that he mentions right here, the Oxford Companion. This is probably the book that all the people in wine use because it defines just about every single wine term. All right, guys, here we go. All right, so the praise was made. I agree with her. What this proves basically is Jancis Robinson is just about as knowledgeable as anybody in the wine world. I don't know if any other wine professional, they have such an extensive knowledge and it's documented in books that are read by a lot of people.
In 1984, she was the first non-wine trade person to become a master of wine, and she has received many awards for her work, including the OBE by Queen Elizabeth. She describes herself as a wine writer, not a wine critic, and she seems to have a love-hate relationship with wine scores.
He says that she has a love-hate relationship with wine scores. I've heard her say that as well. She actually said that it's a necessary evil. I know some people, some wine professionals, they hate scores altogether. What I think Jancis said, and I agree with her assessment, is that not all wine is made the same. So yes, when you put a score, it's kind of subjective. It's almost like it's tricked to be objectivity, which it's not. But what I think wine scores is, it makes the people who are great at their craft come to the front. Instead of people with big brand recognition kind of pushing their brand on the consumer, where they focus more on the brand rather than the quality of the product. The scores are trying to highlight people that focus on quality and who are, like I said, masters of their craft.
On her website, she writes that although we are not very comfortable with scoring wines because it is so difficult to encapsulate a wine's qualities in a single score, we do realize how useful scores are for those reading and buying and selling in a hurry. I don't use Jancis scores very much for a few reasons. First of all, she uses the 20-point scale, which is becoming less and less relevant, and I find it difficult to convert her scores into a 100-point system score.
All right, here we go. The 20-point scale and attack on it. So yes, Jancis Robinson uses 20-point scale. In fact, in the clip, he shows this exact chart, which I have it on my website as well. So he's kind of starting to attack the scale and basically saying that it's more confusing than a 100-point scale. And he's going to give some explanation. So let me listen to his explanation and retort.
The descriptions they use on their website in order to explain the scores don't necessarily make it much easier for me to understand. The scale starts at 12 points actually for faulty or unbalanced wine. 13 points is borderline faulty or unbalanced. 14 is deadly dull. 15 is average, a perfectly nice drink with no faults but not much excitement. 16 is distinguished. 17 is superior. 18 is a cut above superior. 19 is a humdinger. And 20 is truly exceptional. It is funny that everything below 15 points is actually deadly dull or faulty, which kind of means that the score only really starts at 15 points. On top of that, I don't really understand the differences between distinguished, superior, and a cut above superior. Humdinger is a word that I have actually never used, and I've never heard anyone describe a wine as a humdinger. So I think it would be useful if they would explain the scores in a little bit more detail. What is also worth mentioning is that their 20-point scale is not equally applied across all wines.
Now he's showing all the problems with the scale. So he's saying that it's really kind of the terms that you can't really distinguish what makes the quality higher. 12 to 13, 14, unexceptional wines, 15 to 16, kind of average wine, 17 superior, exceptional. Actually, this scale has all these terms that he was saying. 16 is superior, 17 a cut above superior, 18 to 19 a humdinger, and 19 to 20 truly exceptional. I don't know, it kind of makes sense to me that there's 200-point scales. There's the Robert Parker scale, where basically 50 to 60, that's an F for failing. 60 to 70 below average, 70 to 80 average, 80 to 90 above average, 90 to 100 excellent. Then wine enthusiasts come out with their own 100-point scale. And basically, they don't review anything below 80. Then it goes 80 to 83 acceptable, 83 87 good, 87 to 90 very good, 90 to 94 excellent, 94 to 98 superb, 98 to 100 a classic. So if you already have two scales here, see the problem with the scale is that what is a 26 point wine? I don't know. There's no explanation. Have anybody seen a 72-point wine? You mostly see 86 and above wines, even if you see that. So basically, we're talking about a 10-point scale. So he's knocking Jancis Robinson for saying her 20-point scale is like basically a 5-point scale. The 100-point scale that he loves so much is basically a 10-point scale. What did we use the rest of the wasted 90 points? So that's kind of my first pet peeve. Me from judging Jancis Robinson wines, when I taste a wine that she scored 17 points versus when wine that she scored 18 points, there's a huge difference. And I guarantee it's going to be a huge difference. You know what? I bet you can't tell the difference between a 92 and a 93-point wine. I bet you can't. If you were to blind taste it, you wouldn't be able to tell 92 from 93. So there's a 1-point difference between the two scales. So to me, there's one example when the 20-point scale is actually superior. He strikes me as being a little envious. That's how he's coming off to me. So he's giving her a little bit of introduction. She's like, oh, she's done all this stuff, but now she's old-fashioned. And guys like him too, he's a master of wine. And actually, as he goes through the wine tasting process, he's actually very good at what he does. But here's the problem. He hasn't written those books. That's why I want to bring those books out. So he wants to present himself as an expert without putting in the work. And he's trying to put the expert, the true expert. You know what? I'll tell you what she is. She's the GOAT of wine professionals. That's what Jancis is. And he is not. So that's what's about to start happening. So he's going to go, I think, knock her a little bit more, but we'll get to that.
Jancis writes that when reviewing, for example, New Zealand Pinot Noirs, we score the wines in the context of New World Pinot Noir rather than on the same scale as we would mark red Burgundies. So with a score of 18.5, a 2003 Quartz Reef Pinot Noir is not equal to a 2003 DRC and never will be. I find that approach strange, as you don't really know what the category is your wine was rated in. Say, does a German Pinot Noir get rated on the same scale as red Burgundy, as New Zealand Pinot, or on an entirely different scale altogether? On top of that, that kind of suggests that New Zealand Pinot can compete with red Burgundy, which is a little bit demeaning.
Uh-oh, somebody's about to get on his high horse. A little bit of defeating. Oh, I hope he's not offended. What else is he offended over here? There's one thing he actually mentions that I never heard before, but it makes complete sense, and I'll explain to you guys. So when she said that there's two different scales, basically a New World scale and an Old World scale, and she was saying that even though a wine could have the same score, 18.5 points, an 18.5 point New Zealand Pinot is not on par to 18.5 point red Burgundy. Okay, I didn't know that, but it's actually from somebody who studies her website all the time. It makes perfect sense. She started her website over 20 years ago, as he mentioned earlier in the video. And I did notice that a lot of New World Pinots or Chardonnays, a lot of New World wines would get high scores. And now they don't get those scores anymore. She leveled out her wine scores that they're all even across the board. So when she first started it, she kind of was still playing with the scale. She didn't know 100% what she was doing, so she was kind of playing around with that. And now you hardly ever see New Zealand Pinot get 18.5 points. Like a 17.5 point Pinot from the New World, be it California, Oregon, or New Zealand, that's like a great score. But they hardly ever get scores higher than that. Whereas high-end Premier Cru Burgundies and obviously Grand Cru Burgundies get 18, 18.5, 19 points frequently enough. So what she's saying is that old world wines are better than new world wines. And this is where he's kind of getting offended. I would say I agree with her best my experience. I don't have experience like she does, but I understand what she's saying. She's talking about terroir, and he knows everything about terroir. And you could make that argument that, yes, you cannot replicate terroir in the new world. That's why old world wines would get a higher score, in her expert opinion. So he's trying to be like, I don't know, coy here. And like I said, try to raise himself up by putting her down. I just have one thing for Constantine. You're not on her level yet. Stop worrying about her and worry about yourself. Get better at your craft instead of trying to put her down. So that's my comment to her. All right, let's see what else he's going to say.
The tasting notes are sometimes very detailed, but sometimes also very short and don't contain a lot of information. A 1982 Mouton Rothschild that received a perfect 20-point score got this tasting note: sweet, round, and absolutely gorgeous. At this point, with a perfect level of spiciness, just lovely now. I also run the numbers on Team Jancis' ratings, and she has rated fewer wines than robertparker.com or Vinous.com, but a few more than jamessuckling.com. What I found surprising is that her scores are much more concentrated around a very narrow part of the scale. 75% of all wines are rated between 15.5 and 17 points, although it's a bit difficult to compare her scores against the 100-point system scores, as they are two different systems. That's interesting to me, though.
So he was saying that she didn't rank as many she doesn't have as many wines ranked as other wine producers. I'm not really sure what that has to do with anything. And then the other thing he says is that a lot of her wines are scored in that 15, 16, 17 points. That's like the bulk of the scores. To me, Jan says she has a team. So she's not the only one who scores the wines. But speaking strictly about Jancis Robinson, when she scores the wines, to me, she's the most frugal scorer of all. So a lot of the time, she gives scores that are maybe less than equivalent scores from other critics. I actually like that.
Though, as the most important points of criticism when it comes to the 100-point system are that you can only use half of the scale and that the scores are concentrated around the 90-point mark. But on both points, the 20-point system actually seems to be worse. When it comes to giving out the perfect 20-point score, Jancis seems to be as reluctant as the people over at Vinous. 194 wines have received 20 points. One of them I've tasted in the Somme cult wine video, the Keller Pettental, and another one is sitting here right in front of me. So let's taste the wines. I don't know what they are, but I'm going to try to find out which one is which. As they were scored in the 20-point system, I'm also going to try to score them in the 20-point system, but I will also give my 100-point system score on top of that. Got it? Let's go.
So she's not trying to overhype everything. And a lot of the critics do that. They overhype everything because I think giving higher scores kind of elevates them. They're trying to be the first one to discover a new gem by giving them a high score. That's, I think, part of what they do. She's basically saying, like, prove it to me. Not everybody's great at their craft. Let's not get all excited about things. Let's prove it to me. That's a thought process. I think when it comes to wine, I like that approach. And another thing he said, there's a little bit of a pet peeve. And I think he's being dishonest about his opinion. He's saying, like, well, he can't compare the 20-point scale versus a 100-point scale. For example, like, if something gets 17 points, what would it be on a 100-point scale? Is it like you would take 17 and multiply it by 5 because there's 5 20s in 100 and that's 85? Is that what it means? He knows exactly what 17 points means. And let me tell you what the scale is. 16 points is basically an 89 to 90 point wine. 16.5, you go 1 point higher, right? 18 points, you're talking about 95 point wine. etc. It's not that hard. He knows it. He just tried to put the scale down. But let's see him actually start tasting the wines, and I'll have more comments about that as well.
On the palate, it's textured, it's grippy, it's fresh. There's lots of acidity there as well. So there's a beautiful balance. To me, this seems to be a really good Riesling and a very, very good Riesling. I think this tastes very German to me. I would say this might be from Rheinhessen, Rheingau, Nahe, that part of Germany, and it's just delicious. So this is clearly a cut above superior. I think it's probably even better than that. Maybe it's a Humdinger or truly exceptional. I actually think this is truly exceptional. I wouldn't rate it 100 points though. So in the 100 point system, I would rate this 97 points. So if I convert that using the conversion table, it would mean that it's probably a 19 point wine. So this is a Humdinger, and that's the first time I've ever used that word to describe a wine. So let's move on to wine number 2 before I break any glasses. I've already broken a cup today, so well, maybe I'll also break a glass. Let's see. Whoa. That's pretty golden. So this is pretty golden in color, which might suggest it's a sweet wine or an aged wine. I actually smelled that wine quite a bit while the lineup was standing in front of me.
He's got his experience in, he's good at what he's doing. He mentioned kind of jensensrobinson.com.
Let's open them up. So I thought wine number 2 was the exceptional, truly exceptional wine, even though both of them were actually really delicious. For me, this was a little bit more exciting, maybe because of the additional aging. I thought this was a Grüner Veltliner from Wachau, so let's find out. Oh! So it was a Grüner Veltliner from the Wachau region in Austria, and it's the 2010 Stockkultur Smaragd from Praga, a delicious wine. But it only received 19 points from Jancis Robinson. So this is actually the Humdinger and not the truly exceptional wine. Let me peel that back a little bit. It's 13.5% of alcohol. I'd imagine it's more towards the 14, but great wine. So that means I was wrong here. This isn't the Humdinger. This was the Humdinger. This is the truly exceptional wine. Well, let's find out. Maybe it's not even that. Maybe it's just a cut above superior. Let's see. But I'm pretty sure that this was very highly rated. I see the GG here, which means große Gewächs, which puts me into Germany, and it's Dönhoff, one of the top producers in the Nahe region. It received 20 points from jensensrobinson.com, and it's the Felsenberg GG. A Riesling, nevertheless, delicious wine. So these two wines are just outstanding. If you ever want really great examples of their grape variety and region of origin, then those two wines are, well, two wines to go for. But now let's move on to the next wine, number 4. I thought this was the cut above superior, and I thought it was a Syrah from Chile. So let's have a look. There's a screw cap here, so this kind of points to the New World. Doesn't necessarily mean it's New World, but it is a cut above superior. This is the 18-point wine. Here, check it out. And it's blank canvas Gimlet Gravels Element Syrah. I was close. This is from New Zealand, from the Gimlet Gravels region, which is one of the top terroirs for Syrah and some other red varietals in New Zealand. But, well, it's not Chile, so yeah. But I got the score right this time. This would mean that this is the superior wine number 3. I said it's a Côte du Rhône with more Syrah than Grenache, but well, let's see. It is the superior wine. No, the superior wine at 17 points, and it's Fine Mavrudi. What? Anatoliakos Vineyards. Well, it's Mavrudi from Greece. So yeah, I wouldn't have guessed that. But it's a really cool wine.
So I think he's good at his craft. He's a master of wine. He's got his learnings in. He's got his experience in. He's good at what he's doing. Very interesting thing. So he mentioned kind of JensenRobinson.com during one of the tastings because he knew 3 of the 4 wines were not tasted by Jensen Robinson. In fact, the wine that he thought was the best wine was the one that got 19 points instead of 20 points. And that's the one that Jensen herself actually tasted. So that's not a surprise that he thought that the most complex wine was the second highest rated, but it was actually the one rated by Jensen's. And it's the Prager wine. The guy is one of the best winemakers from the Wachau in Austria. And I have a couple of his wines on the website, VinousReverie.com. I'll put them guys in the link below. Check them out. He's a fantastic producer. If you guys want to pay $100 for a premium wine, do not pay $100 for a Burgundy. Pay $100 for a Prager wine. It's infinitely better than any Burgundy at that same price point. Go to JensensRobinson.com and start reading her reviews. I think if you start following her, specifically her recommendations, you guys will be drinking the best wines in the world. And that doesn't necessarily mean you'll be drinking the most expensive wines in the world. Give me feedback. Please let it know in the comments below. And don't forget, VinousReverie.com, I do tastings every Friday from 4 to 6 and every Saturday from 1 to 4. A lot of the wines we taste are the highly rated wines on a 20-point scale from JensensRobinson.com. And everything I have, please check out on VinousReverie.com. You can actually filter by Jensen Robinson scores. I'm the only retail store in U.S. that actually allows you to filter by Jensen Robinson scores, not just